Hi, I'm Mrs. Morris, and today I'm going to read you a story that reminds me of a time when my family and I were overseas travelling. The best thing about books is the fact that they can bring back memories of really happy times we spent with our families. And that's really important, particularly at the moment when we perhaps can't do all of the things that we sometimes like to do with our families. This book is called No Such Thing as Nessie, and it's written by Charlie McBain and illustrated by Kirsten Harris Jones. And it's about a monster called Nessie. And this is Nessie up the top here. It's set in a place called Scotland. And Scotland is a long way away from Australia. Scotland is here, where that big circle is, in a place called the United Kingdom. And it's in the northern half of the United Kingdom, right above England. And this is Scotland over here on the left. And Scotland's an important place for my family because my ancestors came to Australia from Scotland in the 1800s. And they came from a tiny little place called Berneray on an island out in what's called the Outer Hebrides, right about there. But our story today is set in Loch Ness. And Loch Ness is right here in Scotland. Now, Loch is the Scots Gaelic word for lake. So Loch Ness just means Lake Ness. And this is Loch Ness here. It's a big, long lake right up in the northern part of Scotland. So let's start our story. No such thing as Nessie. Finlay loved dinosaurs. He loved Triceratops and Stegosaurus and Tyrannosaurus Rex. But his favourite dinosaur was the Loch Ness Monster. Finlay's gran said she had once seen Nessie. A big head had popped out from the water of Loch Ness and watched his gran eating her lunch back when she was a little girl. Finlay's gran hadn't been surprised because she'd always believed in the Loch Ness Monster. She'd thrown Nessie some shortbread. Nessie had chomped it all up and then, splash, she was gone. Now Finlay was going on holiday to Gran's house and he was planning his very own Nessie hunt. Mum drove them along the twisty road towards Loch Ness. Finlay saw a dark shape over the hill. It had two humps, just like... Mum! Nessie! He yelled. Screech! Mum slammed her foot on the brake. Finlay, don't shout like that. It's dangerous. But Mum, there's Nessie, Finlay pointed. Can you see what it is? Loch Ness Tractor Repairs, Mum read the sign. There's no such thing as Nessie, silly, said Finlay's big sister Sarah. Don't worry, Finlay. I'm sure Gran will help you with your Nessie hunt, said Mum. When Finlay arrived at Gran's house, she agreed they could start looking for Nessie right away. Finlay packed his Nessie hunting kit, which had his camera, pencils, a notepad, and a net in it. And he wrapped up some of Gran's shortbread too, just in case. They all went for a walk along a pebbly beach. Finlay skipped a stone across the loch. What's that noise, Gran? It was coming from a big pile of rocks down on the beach. Sticking out from behind the biggest rock was a strange shape. It looked a bit like a tail. Gran! Nessie! Finlay shouted and ran towards the tail. But this Nessie was rather floppy. Sorry, Finlay, said Gran. It looks like someone's forgotten their blow-up Nessie. It must have a hole somewhere. There's no such thing as Nessie, said Sarah, sticking her tongue out. The next day, Gran took Finlay and Sarah on a boat trip. All the passengers were distracted by an osprey swooping down. hitting the water with a big splash and flapping off with a fish. Rising a bit further away was a grey shape with a long grey neck. Everyone, it's Nessie, shouted Finlay. They all rushed to see. The long grey neck slowly lifted out of the water. Its body was dark and shiny and square. Sorry, folks, shouted the boat skipper. That's one of the research submarines doing her rounds. Ah, the tourists groaned. Told you there's no such thing as Nessie, Sarah said again. The skipper gave Finlay's shoulder a squeeze. Better luck next time, eh, son? The next day, Finlay, Sarah and Gran were exploring the woods near the loch. They heard leaves rustling. Well, I don't think that's Nessie, his Gran smiled. Let's find out what it is. They tiptoed through the trees towards the edge of the loch and keeked out from behind a tree. A beautiful stag was having a drink. As they watched the stag, Finlay noticed a long, dark shape on the water, getting larger and closer. It was huge. He started to feel a bit nervous. What if Nessie wasn't friendly after all? Gran, Nessie, he stuttered. A red crane rolled out from the trees, casting its long shadow across the water. The stag leapt away back into the woods. There's no such thing as... Shh now, Sarah, said Gran. She gave Finlay's hand a squeeze. Finlay sighed. We go home now, Gran? On the last day of their holiday, Sarah went shopping with Mum, while Finlay and Gran visited Urquhart Castle and then headed off for a picnic. Finlay put his hands deep in his pockets and walked around, kicking the grass. What's wrong, Finlay? His Gran asked. There's no such thing as Nessie. His Gran looked at him. Oh, Finlay, I bet she's just shy. Finlay picked up a big chunk of shortbread and chucked it as hard as he could into the loch behind him. It made a big plop. Nessie doesn't exist, he yelled. Finlay! Nessie! Gran shouted. He whirled around. A big head and a long, thick neck rose out of the bubbling loch. She had little black eyes and a wide face, and she was chewing. Finlay stared at the Loch Ness monster. Nessie stared back. Quick! His camera! He had to get his camera! He turned around, grabbed his bag, turned back. But Nessie was gone. Finlay started to laugh and Gran joined in. I don't care that I don't have a picture, Finlay exclaimed. I saw Nessie, Gran. I saw the Loch Ness monster. His Gran laughed so hard that she could hardly talk. And she still likes my shortbread. And that's the story of the Loch Ness monster. And this is a photo of when I went to Scotland a few years ago. And we went to Urquhart Castle and we went hunting for the Loch Ness monster in Loch Ness. So this is our Nessie. And I hope you enjoyed that story and you go out adventuring looking for monsters as well.